Good afternoon, parents. I see everyone is logging in. So great to be before you this afternoon. We're going to give it about another minute or two before we start the session as we see parents still signing in. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll start in about 2 minutes. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. My name is Ranice Johnson Guy. I am the director for Study USA. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us on today to learn about what Study USA has to offer your students. This presentation is going to be for students who are going to Charlotte, Los Angeles, New York City, and Washington, D.C. We will be before you for about 60 minutes. If you have any questions, you definitely can ask your questions within the chat. This is going to be recorded and it will be uploaded onto Study USA YouTube page. Thank you so much. And so now we're going to begin our webinar. So this is what we're going to be talking about pretty much today. I'm going to introduce you to our team, Why Study USA, the program structure, housing, classroom space, study away resources, and finances. So hopefully we'll be able to get all of that information to you today. And again, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to answer it in the chats. Myself and Natalie Perez will be monitoring the chat. Really quickly, our team for Study USA, we have Mark Kurt, who is Assistant Dean of Global Education. He will not be joining us today, but you are welcome to send him any questions that you might have based on Study USA. Again, I'm Ranice Johnson Guy, the Study USA Director. We have with us Skylar Smith, who is the Global Experiential Learning Coordinator. And then we also have Ms. Natalie Perez, who is the Assistant Director for Career Services and for Study USA and International Students. So why Study USA? Study USA is a stacked learning model, and we want our students here to be able to achieve academic, professional, and personal goals. And so within the academic portion of it, we do want students to have an internship course. And this internship course is really helping them to be able to understand their internship experience while they're in New York, LA, DC, and Charlotte. The academic component is definitely meeting their graduation requirements. So we want to make sure that all students are within their graduation plan and able to graduate on time. There is some community engagement, so we want students out in the community, and it is place-based courses. So the courses that they are learning within the classroom is tied and tailored to their internship professional goals. This is really for them to get out of the classroom and still earn credits. Professionally, we are able to have students to network with Elon alums within their location. We have a lot of networking events with different organizations and corporations in their location as well. So this is definitely an opportunity for students to make connections after Elon. And in personal, if they're going to New York, LA, Charlotte, or DC, it's really experiencing the city life in these locations. It's a cohort model. So students are engaging in these experiences together. So we are having students from different departments going to Charlotte, LA, DC, and New York. So this is really a cohort model, so they're not feeling like they're left alone. And personal growth. We want to make sure that their academic and professional experiences is really developing their personal growth. So there are some activities that they're going to be engaging in so that they can grow professionally, academically, and personally. So this is really an opportunity for them to try out life in their major within a global city. So I'm going to pass it over to Skylar Smith, who's really going to talk about the pre-departure support and timeline.
Thanks. So we just want to kind of break down the timeline of what students have already been doing with us and what's planned for the rest of the spring semester. So I'm starting off with summer students. So far in the process, they've applied to the program, submitted an application with us. They've interviewed with our staff. And after they received their program acceptance, they started the internship search with Natalie Perez. So now that we're getting into February and March, our summer students are actually starting their pre-departure course this week. So the first class will actually be tomorrow, which is exciting. And we'll have some more information about that pre-departure course in the next slide or so. And so as we get closer to May and their program start dates, they'll start to get more information about housing, registering for courses, things like that. And then hopefully in May and April, they are accepting internship offers and securing that internship before they arrive on site to their program location. And then for our fall students, they follow a very similar process, except a little later since they are not starting their programs until August. And our fall students are not registered in our pre-departure course this go around since it is a pilot program for our summer students, but they do receive very similar information, just in a different format with internship workshops and other orientation sessions that they are having with us throughout the pre-departure process. So the students are definitely well prepared before they arrive on site, and they'll be receiving more and more information from us as we go on throughout the spring semester. So kind of a checklist of what students have already done with our team. So after they were accepted into the program, they would have already had a orientation internship session with Natalie Perez, as well as a resume workshop. So our summer and fall students hopefully will have done that. If not, and they applied a little later, then they should be scheduling one-on-one sessions with Natalie to receive that information as well. So as you can see, the fall students still have multiple internship sessions scheduled for them throughout the spring semester. The summer students do as well, but it is included in their pre-departure course and the time that they have in that course. They'll have these sessions as well. All right, and then I can hand it off to Natalie Perez.
Thanks, Skylar. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the pre-departure seminar course. So as was mentioned before by Ronnie and Skylar, this is really just going to be for summer students. This is our first time doing this type of course, and we're really excited to be doing it with all your students. Ronnie and I are co-facilitating that program. We also will be having guest speakers. So this is required only for the summer LA, New York, and Charlotte programs. Any DC summer students are not required to take this just because they work with the Washington Center for their internship search. This is also a 0 credit course, and what that means is that they don't have to pay anything to take this course, right? It's just something that they attend. It's once a week, so students had to select either the Tuesday section or the Thursday section. So some students will be seeing them tomorrow in person. The other students will be seeing them on Thursday. If your student is studying abroad or they had a conflict with both of those times, then they are enrolled in an asynchronous course as well. So they're still getting the same content. Just asynchronously if they are studying abroad. So this course is really supposed to be meant to help students prepare them academically, culturally, linguistically, professionally, and logistically for this experience, right? They're going to a new city, maybe it's their first time there, maybe it's their first time kind of, doing an internship. So this is really to help them prepare for that. Embedded in this course, there are career workshops, as Skylar mentioned, but there's also like budgeting workshops. We have guest speakers talking about how to prepare themselves for this trip as well. And we're hoping to make it fun, so hopefully all your students enjoy it as well. All right, and now the internship component. I know that this is a big part of the program, and a lot of questions typically are related to internships. So as mentioned, completing an internship is required in order to participate in this program. Internships are not placement, so students must work, to apply for internships, but they also work really closely with me. So I am really the career advisor dedicated to this program. So I work with them to make sure that they're applying, make sure that they have really great application materials, and helping them throughout that search, as it could be daunting if it's the first time for them doing it. So the internship is going to be, along with the internship actual work part of it, they do an academic class related to the internship, and that is 2 credits. And because it's a 2-credit academic course, they are required to complete a minimum of 160 work hours. A lot of students in the summer typically end up doing more than 160 just because that's what employers want, right? They want someone to be more available, but the minimum required is 160. Internships can be paid or unpaid depending on the industry. So for example, a lot of film-based internships tend to be unpaid. So that's just something to keep in mind, but that doesn't mean that they're only unpaid. There's definitely have been opportunities where students have gotten paid for like film-related internships, but there's a lot of diversity when it comes to the majors of students that we interact with, and the different locations, and also their career goals. So that also kind of plays a factor. And then I'll pass it over back.
Natalie. So now I'll go into a little bit of a program breakdown for each of our programs. So you can pay attention to the one your student's in and then ignore the other ones if you don't want to hear that other information. You can feel free to take a screenshot as well. If you want to keep this information. But as Ronnie said, this will be uploaded to our YouTube page, and students also have this information and hopefully have shared it with you. So for our Charlotte programs, the top is going to be summer and the bottom pertains to our fall program. So our Charlotte program is Elon led. So we have on-site staff in Charlotte. So students are working with them throughout their program. So for the summer, in addition to their internship, they're also taking a course taught by an Elon faculty member, which is urban design in Charlotte. And then our fall students, in addition to their internship, will take 3 classes from the list right here. So they'll select 3 courses and take that in addition to their internship. So for both summer and fall, the program structure is going to be slightly different on when they will have their class and when they will be expected to intern throughout the week. And then for program dates, you can be sure to mark those on your calendar. And again, students will have that information as well to share with you. And so if you have any questions about kind of the breakdown of the program, we're more than happy to answer that at the end. But this will be just kind of a brief overview of each program as we go through. For Los Angeles, we just have a summer program. So for the summer program, again, you can take note of the dates and their schedule for the summer and then their courses. The LA program is a little different in that it is broken into two different summer sessions. So students will be taking one class during summer session one and one class during summer session two. So selecting two courses from this list right here. And our LA program is also Elon led. So we have Elon on-site staff in LA that are there throughout the whole year and will be working with the students once they arrive on site. For the courses, we have local adjunct faculty in the LA area that will be teaching the courses for the summer. So a little different than with Charlotte and having on campus Elon faculty members teach. And then for New York, for the summer program, they will be taking a core capstone, and that is taught by an Elon faculty member. So students, so the faculty member will be going up for the summer with the students, and will be the New York Summer Faculty Director. So the faculty member will be up there throughout the whole course of the program with the students, along with a program assistant. So they will have Elon on-site staff with them as well throughout the course of the summer program. For the fall semester, we work with a provider, Marymount Manhattan College in New York. So students are essentially a visiting student for the semester and are taking courses at Marymount. So they take 4 courses in addition to their internship and then also stay in Marymount's housing. So they have Marymount on-site staff that they are working with throughout the semester that they're there. And they're also following Marymount's academic calendar. So not Elon's calendar while they're away. So very similar to a study abroad program in that way. For DC, with the DC summer and fall program, students are working with our provider, the Washington Center. So the DC program is very different than our other summer and semester programs. As Natalie mentioned before, students are working with the Washington Center in terms of their internship search. So students are more so working with them throughout the pre-departure process than with our team. We still touch base with them and still will have a program orientation for DC students, but DC students will work with the Washington Center for their internship search, and they will have some pre-departure orientation sessions with the Washington Center as well. As far as the courses go, they're also taking courses through the Washington Center. So they take one course in addition to their internship and then career readiness workshops, which are essentially professional development workshops. So having networking events and things along those lines for the students. So similar to Marymount with working with a provider, DC students will be following the Washington Center's academic calendar and not Elon's academic calendar while they are away. All right, and then moving on to housing and classroom space. So with our LA program, as I mentioned before, we have on-site staff in LA. So with the LA program, we have a classroom space called the Preserve in East Hollywood. So students are having their classes in that space throughout the week. And then they are also housed in Elon provided housing. So we are not quite ready to share specific information for the summer housing quite yet, but we will be sharing that soon later this spring. So we'll share that with the students, and the students can obviously share that with you all once they learn from us. But I can share that the housing will be move-in ready. They will be furnished apartments, and we were looking at options with single bedrooms in shared apartments. So these apartments will have a shared kitchen, and there will not be a meal plan. So students will be responsible for cooking their own meals. And more information to come once we finalize everything and share that with students. If students have housing accommodations, they will need to go through the Office of Disability Resources to make sure their accommodations are on file and approved by Elon. So that's something, if that affects your student, then they will need to make sure that they follow that process. With our on-site staff, we have an LA director and LA program assistant, and our LA program assistant does live on site in the housing so that they kind of act like an RA for students while they're there, and also attend the programming events with LA students as well. So for Charlotte, for our summer and fall program, students will be housed in Foster Flats in South End, Charlotte. South End is where both our housing and classroom space is located. So the picture at the bottom is our classroom space. It's a really nice building that's been newly renovated by Elon. So it's a very cool space for students to use during their time there. That's also where the law program is located as well. So as far as the apartments go, those apartments are also furnished. They are in close proximity to the light rail. So students can take the light rail throughout Charlotte if that's their mode of transportation that they would like to take. And these rooms will be single bedrooms and shared apartments. So students will have their own room, but be sharing an apartment with other Elon students. So there will be 2 to 4 bedrooms per apartment unit, which would translate to about 2 to 4 students in each apartment. They'll also have laundry, kitchen, as you can see in the picture, as well as a bathroom or a single bathroom in their apartment as well. Similar to all our programs, there is no meal plan. So again, students will be responsible for feeding themselves throughout the program. There's also lots of amenities on site in the apartment complex that they'll have access to, as well as parking. And again, with housing accommodations, students will need to go through Elon's process for that. For the New York summer program, we'll start with summer. So students will be housed in NYU dorms, which will be near the East Village in Manhattan. So these are apartment style furnished units. One thing to note is that it is New York, so they are much smaller and a lot older than what students might be used to on Elon's campus. So that can be a bit of an adjustment. They will also be sharing a room with another student. So these are shared rooms and shared spaces for this housing. So there is typically, all room layouts are a little different, but it ranges from 2 to 4 bedrooms in one suite. So those students will all be sharing a bathroom as well as the small kitchenette and living space in that suite. There is also the possibility of non-Elon student roommates in their suite. NYU allows or rents their housing to other summer university interns throughout the summer. So there could be non-Elon students in their suite as well. And again, there's no meal plan, but they do have access to NYU's fitness center, as well as other amenities in their specific dorm building. And for their laundry, they will have to pay for that. It's $1 per cycle. So that is something to keep in mind as well. And then for housing accommodations, again, they have to go through Elon's process, but also NYU has a process as well. So they will also have to submit documentation to NYU for accommodations. All right, and then for the semester in New York, for the semester, students are housed in Marymount dorms. So these are furnished units. They have 2 different housing locations. So it depends on which one the student is in. And some of these differences I'll note with those different housing locations. But they will be living with other Marymount students. So they're typically filling a vacancy in a Marymount room during the semester that they're going. And one important thing to note is that Marymount does not have any options for single rooms. So if your student has accommodations for a single room, Marymount is not able to approve that or accommodate that because they do not have any options for single rooms with their housing. They will also have access to a small kitchenette or a communal kitchen depending on their housing location. And then something different with the semester is that Marymount actually offers dining dollars. So students will have a very limited meal plan with those dining dollars and a starting balance that they can use for on and off campus dining locations. All right, and then the last one would be for our DC program. So with our DC students, they are staying in the Washington Center's housing. So with their housing, they also have their classroom space in the same building as their housing. So that's really convenient for students for everything to be housed in the same location. So with their housing, they have apartment style units for students. So these are 2-bed, 2-bath shared units. They'll be sharing a bedroom with another student. So it's not just Elon students going, but other university students that are participating in the program with the Washington Center as well that they'll be living with. They have fully stocked kitchens and living rooms, so there's not much that students have to pack. And the Washington Center, again, does not have a dining hall or a meal plan offered to students. They do have other amenities on site, like a fitness center, lounges, a business area. If students have hybrid internships, then there's an area for them to work remote throughout the week as well. And then for housing accommodations, they do need to go through Elon's process and the Washington Center's as well to be approved. Okay, and then for transportation, so we get a lot of questions about this. This is going to be different than winter term programs. So with all of our Study USA programs for both summer and fall, there are no group flights. So we are not booking flights for students or transportation to and from the city. So students are responsible for booking transportation, whether that be airfare, if they're driving to New York, however they're getting to their program location is up to them, and they are responsible for booking that. So that being said, a lot of students will coordinate with other students before they leave to coordinate flights where they're arriving to an airport around a similar time so they can share Ubers to the housing location, things like that. So students can definitely do that when they meet, other students in their cohort during orientations and the pre-departure process. So we definitely encourage students to do that if they are kind of worried about arriving to the city on their own. But yes, so that is something that I want to make sure everyone's aware of, since that is very different than our winter term programs. Okay. And then other transportation costs. So students will have to think about other transportation costs outside of just getting to their program location. So costs to get around the city once they're there are not included in the program fee, except for our New York summer students. Our New York summer students receive a monthly subway pass while they're there, but that is the only program where that is the case. Whereas the other programs and locations, students are using very different modes of transportation. So that's why we don't cover that for other programs. For LA students, this is going to be one of the larger expenses that they'll want to budget for and think about during their time there, and can also be a bit of a stressor for students. LA is not as much of a walkable city as New York or DC. So students will really need to think about how they plan to get to their internship site, whether that be through public transportation or Ubering, things like that. And then for LA, New York, and DC, those students, we do discourage our students from bringing cars to those locations because we do have very limited parking availability, if any parking spots at all. And this will be communicated to them during their orientations. If they do plan to bring a car, there will be a parking fee involved for the summer or semester. And then for our Charlotte students, Charlotte is a very different city than LA or New York, and most people are driving to different places. So most of the students for our Charlotte summer and fall program do indeed bring their cars, and we do have parking spots available for those students that plan to bring their cars. So getting to the classroom space and internship sites for all these different programs will vary for students. In LA, some students might like to Uber to their classroom space, whereas others might like to walk. So that will really vary. But for their internship site, once they know where their internship will be located, we do encourage them to, once they're on site, to do a practice run to their internship site, but also beforehand, if in LA, if they need to Uber to their internship site, to do a practice, plug it in, an Uber or Lyft, to see what the costs might be, one way, getting back during rush hour, things like that. So they can start to budget for that beforehand. And we do encourage them to use public transportation, as well as carpool with other students, and things along those lines when possible. And one thing that I did not write down on here that I do want to add is that for our programming events, so on top of their internship and classes, we'll also have programming events scheduled for these students to help them get to know the city better, for professional development purposes. For those events, transportation is included. So getting to and from that event. We will help work with students on that and provide and cover those costs. Okay, and then getting into some different topics, we did want to touch on some resources and things to keep in mind when students are studying away from Elon's main campus for the summer or semester. Okay, so for health purposes, this is an important topic that we really want students to think about beforehand before they are away from Elon's main campus or from away from home for the summer. They'll want to think about any medical or health, wellness related needs that they will require throughout their time away on one of these programs. And they do want to think about how they will be in a new environment, taking different courses, working an internship. So this can sometimes bring more challenges to the surface when they are in these new environments and balancing these new things. And so thinking about this and planning for this beforehand to talk with their care provider and talk about how they can access things that they might need while they're away and while they're participating in these programs. And we'll also talk about some resources that they have access to as well while they are away. So while away from Elon's main campus, they still have lots of resources that they're able to utilize throughout the summer and semester. So for our on-campus resources, all students have access to timely care. And if your student doesn't know about timely care, I encourage them to look into it. It is a 24/7 virtual health and well-being app that they can download and utilize while they're away. So it has on-demand support for counselors, doctors, things like that. So they can definitely utilize that during their time away. They have access to student care, academic support for their classes, support from the Student Professional Development Center, as well as Natalie while they're away, identity-based resources, as well as Alert Traveler and Read Guardian, which are safety apps. So students can download those and get alerts about different events that are happening in their city for safety purposes that they might need to be aware of. And LA students also download an earthquake app while they're in LA as well to be aware of those things. And then in addition to Elon's resources, they also have access to on-site resources as well. So with the Washington Center, Marymount, and our on-site staff, they have resources to provide for students while they are on site as well. And if they have any questions or if you have questions, they also are always able to reach out to us. And we encourage parents to contact our office as kind of the first point of contact for all programs and terms. Okay, so wrapping up to one of our last topics, program costs, the most fun part of the presentation. So with all of these programs, all of our program costs are uploaded on our website. So you can navigate to elon.edu/studyusa and go to your specific program. There is a brochure page. If you scroll down, there is a section where there is a budget sheet for each program location. So summer 2025 might not be fully uploaded yet, but if you look to right beside the budget sheet on our website, we do have highlighted what the tentative anticipated cost for summer 2025 is. So you can review that as well. So for all our programs, these are eligible for the same financial aid as any on-campus study, but we do encourage all students to connect with the Office of Financial Aid, since every situation and case is unique with students. So if they have questions about that, they should definitely reach out to financial aid. So really quickly to kind of show you how our budget is broken down on the budget sheet on these brochure pages, you will see two sections for a billable subtotal and a non-billable subtotal. For the billable subtotal, that is what you'll really want to pay attention to. That is the fee that is going to show up on your Elon account. And is what you will be paying directly to Elon. So that cost will include the tuition, any study away fees, as well as their insurance on campus, things like that. Non-billable are out-of-pocket expenses. This is just an estimate that we're sharing. This does not mean, the student is for sure going to spend $500 on ground transportation. Just an estimate, and this is not an amount that is being added to your Elon account. And if you have any questions about that, we're happy to answer that as well. So with all of our programs, students have access to a few different additional funding opportunities. So in their application, when they applied to one of these programs, they were able to request if they wanted to be considered for our GSE Global Scholarship. And so that is for any student that has a FAFSA on file and demonstrates financial need. So that is reviewed by our office, and if that student is awarded anything, that will be added to their student account when we post the program fee to the student account in April and May. And then other additional internship grants that we have for this summer. We have two new ones, which is exciting for our summer students. These are program-specific internship grants. So Charlotte has a specific one, as well as LA and New York. So students can apply for these after they've secured an internship, and preference is given to students with unpaid internships. So students will receive more information about that from our office and are definitely encouraged to apply this spring. So as I mentioned, our program costs are uploaded on our website, so you can definitely refer back to that. If you have questions, right now we have ranges for our summer and fall 2025 programs, as we still need to finalize a few costs before we post the final cost. But you can refer to these ranges for now, and we are hoping to release the final program cost by March 1st. So you can be on the lookout for that soon. All right, and then one thing that all students will want to keep in mind is our withdrawal deadlines. So of course, we would like all students to participate in our programs. Excuse me, let me get some more water. But we know that's not always the case, and other things can pop up where they're no longer able to participate. So if that is the case, and they do need to withdraw, they'll want to pay attention to our withdrawal deadlines, which are also posted on our website. So April 1st being the first one that they'll want to kind of mark down and keep in mind as we get closer to that date. So withdrawal deadlines, they all say the cost that will be incurred if a student withdraws after that date. So if a summer student withdraws after April 1st, they would be charged $4,000 for withdrawing after April 1st. Because at that point, we've already booked things for our program, we have housing in place, things like that. So if they withdraw before April 1st, then there is no financial penalty, and nothing will be charged to their account. For DC students, they will want to keep in mind our deadlines as well as the Washington Center. They have their own deadlines that students will have to adhere to as well. And then for our summer students who are taking the pre-departure course, they will also have to keep in mind the drop deadline, as students will receive a W on their transcript if they withdraw from the program and enter the course after those deadlines. So some things to keep in mind as we get closer to April. And if students or yourselves have any questions about finances, scholarships, or financial aid, Ashley Lynch in our office is the best contact for program costs and scholarships. And then Courtney Smith in the Office of Financial Aid is the best contact for financial aid related questions. All right, and then some things to think about for ways to best help your students prepare for these programs. So these are more independent programs than some of our winter term or other programs offered in the GEC. So we do encourage you to trust them to manage the process as well as the internship search. Encourage them to make use of their Elon resources and their cohort. Staying on top of their emails is also really important. Emails from ourselves as well as companies that they're applying to for their internships. They'll want to make sure they're staying on top of that communication and not missing anything or responding late. Time management strategies. So this is really important and something we will also work with students on before they depart for their programs. But helping to talk through some time management strategies will be really important because this is, for a lot of students, the first time that they will be interning and taking classes at the same time. So it can be more for students to manage more than they're used to. And then researching and setting expectations. We will be covering a lot of this in the pre-departure course to help prep them for their program locations, but encouraging students to also do some research on their own about the cities that they're going to, and setting those expectations will also be really helpful. And then lastly, to wrap up, I encourage you all to visit our website at some point in time. So you can do that just by Googling Elon Study USA, and that will be the first page that pops up. So you can search for programs on here. All of our deadlines will be on there. Students can access advising appointments. We have other resources on there. As well as you can find our contact information if you ever need to reach out to any of us for more information or your questions. But other than that, that's all we have for you today. If you have any questions.
Thank you,
feel free to-
Skylar.
Yeah.
So there
I
are
do have
several questions that's still listed on here. Me and Natalie was trying to tackle it while you was presenting, but we do have one. I think we can just start to answer live, if that's okay. So the one that I have that's next, I believe did you answer the question when the program fee is due during the slide of the fees?
So, similar to all bills at Elon, the summer and fall bills are typically posted in mid to late April. And you will have 30 days from the post date to pay it, through the bursar's office, as with other Elon bills. So typically mid to late April is when the program fee is posted to students' accounts.
Okay.
And before we
Okay.
go to the next question,
Mhm.
sorry, Ronnie,
You're fine.
I just wanted to clarify a question that was asked already, about the Charlotte summer course. What day of the week is that done? Because it is
Fridays.
Friday. Okay, just to clarify in that. Okay, all good. All right.
Will the student participate in parent weekend at the Elon campus, or are there other arrangements?
I'm assuming that's for fall, right? Because that happens during fall semester, right, Skylar? Parent weekend.
Yes, yeah. So students will be away. So I don't know if that question is more so if they can come back for that weekend. But yeah, so that would be up to the student and their internship and class schedule. So with the Charlotte Fall program in particular, since we have a lot of sport management students, those students might have work responsibilities on the weekends if they're working a sporting event or things like that. So it'll just kind of depend on their schedule and what they're able to do and if they're able to come back to main campus if that's something that they're planning to do.
Okay. How do the fall students arrange housing on campus for winter and spring? Students should contact Residence Life for housing, on-campus housing, once they complete a Study USA program during the fall semester for winter or spring. Unfortunately, we're not able to assist students with housing, on-campus housing, once they return back. So I would advise that maybe a student would have a conversation with Res Life now, or just depending on when they decide to depart for Study USA, so that they can have some information onto how to arrange housing for on-campus housing when they return.
Yeah, and there are links on Residence Life's website specifically for students studying away from Elon's campus. So we encourage students to go to that web page and contact Res Life if they have questions about their on-campus housing.
Okay. Another one for housing. Okay. And then what if a student in NYC summer program has not secured an internship by April 1st? Secured an internship by April 1st. If they stay in the program and keep searching for internship, what happens and if they don't land one in the beginning? Natalie, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah. Actually, I think that's great because I did also want to mention something else. Something I guess I forgot to mention during the internship slide is, well, the financial part, I'll leave that question to Skylar and Ronnie. But regarding the internship and search, SPDC, so SPDC, sorry, stands for Student Professional Development Center. So our career services on campus. We work very closely with the Study USA program to make sure that students are finding an internship. So something that I mentioned before in a different question that I answered was that we are in the process of gathering, student resumes and sending that out to employers that we have connections with. Now, that doesn't always guarantee an internship, but that's often very helpful. In the past, there have been some students that have received interview requests, have even received internship offers from when we have done that. So we work really hard to also assist them through that process so they're not completely alone. And if they arrive to their location and they don't have an internship secured yet, we work with them daily until they do find that internship. So we do have like some extra cushion time embedded into that so that if any students do arrive there without an internship, they're still able to meet that 160-hour requirement through our help. Hopefully that answers it. The finance part, I'll leave that to you, Ronnie. That's a financial question.
I'm not sure what financial question you're referring to, but I'm gonna go to the next one. Do you see one in there?
Mhm.
Or so if they withdraw after April 1st, that withdrawal penalty would be applied to
Mhm.
their account. So students would need to make sure that if they are thinking about withdrawing, that they're doing it before that deadline.
Mhm.
And it's not uncommon for students to still be searching for internships, interviewing after that April 1st deadline. So most students are not going to have a fully secured internship before April 1st.
Especially for LA too. So something that I've
Yes.
learned as I've been working with just like students finding internships in LA, LA works on a different timeline a little bit. So a lot of students headed to LA for film related internships. Really it's around mid-April, or early May where they're really getting into like the interview process just because of just the way the industry works for them. So for LA specifically, by April 1st, most of them, not most of them, I'll say some of them may not have internships by then. Um, and I'm not worried at that time in April 1st. So I can understand why that would be something to worry about, as a parent, but um, we got them as well. So don't worry about that.
Okay. I want to be mindful of time. We have 5 minutes, so I just want to go
Mhm.
over some of the questions that I see that could be duplicate. Skylar, can you still apply for the grant if you don't have a FAFSA on file?
The I'm assuming the GC scholarship one. So for the GC scholarship one, no, students cannot still apply for that. That's in their program application. And even if they selected that they didn't want to be considered for it, we still usually do consider them for the grant. But they do have to have a FAFSA on file for that. For the internship grants, students can definitely still apply for that as they need to have their internship secured first. So there's still lots of time for those specific ones.
Is there parking for the Charlotte parking?
Is
Is
there
it
a charge
free?
for
Charge,
parking?
yeah. Sorry.
So the parking fee for Charlotte will be included in the program fee. For their housing and classroom space parking. If they, park anywhere else for their internship site, things like that, that would be up to them. If they're parking in Uptown, if they're working at the ACC or things like that, and they don't have a parking pass, then there would be parking fees that they would have to pay for that. So it kind of depends on a case by case basis outside of the housing and classroom space.
Skylar, for MMC for New York, can students have their own apartment or own room?
No. So as I mentioned earlier, all students, the lowest occupancy rate that Marymount has is with one other student. So two total students in the room. They don't have any options for single room apartments. So that's something to keep in mind. If a student has accommodations on file for that, Marymount is not able to accommodate those specific accommodations.
Okay. Um,
I wanted to go back really quickly to one of the previous questions. I'm not exactly sure maybe what they're referring to, but they said my student didn't specifically mention applying for, I'm assuming fall. Oh, it went away. Um, Sorry, I lost the question.
no, wait a minute.
It was about, oh, wait, I found it back. Applying for fall when submitting an application for summer. Is it too late to apply for that? So applications have closed for both summer and fall. So if they haven't applied, then they would have to apply for the next season that comes around. So hopefully that answers that question. Okay.
Um, I see one that has not found an internship yet, but yes, Natalie, that's your student would definitely have to work closely with Natalie so that Natalie can be a part of that support system. So your student can hopefully find an internship before they um, leave for their Study USA location. So even though they might not have found one as of yet, does not mean that they won't find one. So just continue to have your student work with Natalie so that they can find an internship in their location.
Yeah, I would make sure to ask them if they have come to meet with me first. And then I would definitely work with them to kind of help them through that process.
And there's one question about showing up without an internship opportunity. The goal is for that not to happen. Let's just say that it does happen and a student leaves and does not have an internship. If that person did everything that they were supposed to do by meeting with Natalie, weekly, making sure that they are keeping track of their internship tracker, like how many internships they have applied for. And then they arrive in LA without an internship. Their student will still work with Natalie and also with the on-site staff. So they will still continue to have the support that they need for them to find an internship. But the goal is for them not to leave Elon without an internship. But my hope is that they will be able to secure an internship before they leave Elon. But please have your student continue to work with Natalie. It is important that they answer her emails, read her newsletters, because she always put job links on the newsletter as well. So there's opportunities for them to apply for different type of internships throughout LA, New York, LA, New York, and in Charlotte. So hopefully that will not be an issue. I'm going to be respectful of everyone's time. It is 1 p.m. If you do have additional questions, please reach out to us. Again, we thank you for your time here to get as much information. Hopefully we provided. Thank you, Skylar, for for doing the presentation, but hopefully we were able to answer most of your questions. But again, contact myself, and Skylar or Natalie. We will be posting this webinar online as well. But again, if you have any questions, please let us know and then we'll be able to assist you further. But again, thank you for your time today, and thank you for letting your students apply and participate in Study USA. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.